Young people have helped drive social movements around the world. From protesting the established order to furthering new ideas, youth are often on the front lines of political and social transformations, hoping to make the world a better place. Reasons for youth participation in movements vary. Compared to adults, youth often have larger social networks, which can serve as conduits for the transmission of ideas and mobilization. Young people are also more inclined to be innovative in their use of media. They may adopt the latest technologies to help spread their message and mission. Also, youth may have more time and bandwidth than older generations, giving them a greater chance to take risks and fight the status quo. Altogether, reasons such as these make youth participation in social movements an incredibly powerful element.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to a very special episode of The Voice of Reason, joined again by the founder of Stop Moms for Liberty, Liz Mkhitaryan. We have done a show, or put together a show, that's all about the future leaders of America, the voices that we should be listening to the most, because our youth, I can say this from personal experience, I did not pay attention to this stuff when I was a kid, but the kids these days they are involved, they are active, and they are pretty much terrifying the right wing of the political spectrum, because they are what you would call, I guess they would call woke, is the word they would use.
Ooh.
Yeah,
booga booga.
I know, right? It's such terrifying. How's it going, Liz? How's your knee? Actually, I didn't even ask you about that.
It's great. It's good, except for I think I broke my toe last night. So don't get old. That's all I can say is don't get old. It was a different leg, so now I have both of them injured.
All right.
It's
okay. At least he evened it out a little bit, I guess.
I dropped my laptop on my toe. I wouldn't recommend that to anybody.
No.
Yeah.
I wanted to just real quick before you talk about what you got going on is just to thank you for bringing these brave individuals to our attention and allowing them to use our show as a platform for them to be heard. I feel honestly honored, and I'm already impressed by these individuals.
Yeah.
And we've only been talking for like a half an hour, and we really haven't got into the meat of the matter yet. So thank you very much for
I've been following. Oh, my pleasure. Absolutely. I've been following all five of them and their advocacy for different political things or environmental things, or however it is laid out tonight. And all five are who we will continue to see into the future, because they are pretty darned impressive.
Yes.
Right down to our 10-year-old who is one of our speakers tonight. And
that's right.
Oh my goodness. Goodness. She's amazing.
We have been wanting to do an episode like this for so long. I mean, we're obsessed with handing over this country to the youth because everyone else has screwed it up beyond recognition. So just like Jeremy said, having a short time already to speak with them, I feel like that weird thing inside me. I think it's called hope, but I don't want to embrace it yet. So
that's a really good point, because the stuff that we go over and the stuff that we talk about on the show is extremely depressing. So to see people that are paying attention, that are participating, even like you said, Addison is 10 years old, already involved in politics, already involved in social issues, just absolutely blown away. So I can't wait to be able to talk to these
They're not stuck on the anger. They are seeing through it, identifying the problem, and kicking its butt. And that's what we need more than anything right now.
And I think that's a good point. Sometimes people in my generation, or slightly younger than me, sometimes do get stuck in that anger. And yes, I agree with you. I think these are, five beacons of hope that we have on here tonight. But Mike, I also have to say that although they are the beacons of hope, I also want this to be the call out to everyone.
The clarion call.
If these kids are spending their time doing the things that they're doing, then what is the excuse of anybody else that isn't standing up for democracy in the U.S.?
You could at least go out and vote. If they could do what they're doing, go vote.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, at the very least, right? Yeah.
All right, so Liz, do you have anything going on that you wanted to let us know about before we bring the kids on?
I was just going to say for anybody, because I know the 5 guests have brought their networks in for tonight's viewing as well. And I just wanted to say that Stop Moms for Liberty is a national organization. We're in about 44, 46 states. And our mission is to push back on a lot of the things actually that you'll hear about tonight from your speakers. And we believe that public education is something that is needed across the United States, and we are doing the work to make sure that it does maintain and also improve. I was on another podcast last night, and it was like, absolutely, it needs to improve, but we cannot throw out the baby with the bathwater, and that's what we stand for. And we want to fight against things like the book bans that they claim they aren't doing. The segregation that they are really pushing for. Some of us have already lived through this kind of stuff before, guys. So, it's not okay what's going on. And that's what our group does at Stop Moms for Liberty. And we are specifically now working on the upcoming elections. And we have a whole plan in place for candidate support and a network for those candidates to feel like they're not alone, because sometimes, they do. Some potential of some funds to be funneled out to these candidates as well. We have a couple of PACs that we're in touch with.
Nice.
Pull any money, but we want to connect these candidates to be strong and to fight back against the far-right extremist candidates that are still being put out across the United States.
Maybe some of them need some interns.
Yeah, really. Just so everybody knows, Stop Moms for Liberty's Linktree information is attached to our channel page, as well as whatever platform you're watching it on. The website for them is also in the description of the video. So if you guys want to help fight back, please check it out and reach out. So, all right.
Thanks, guys.
Let's get started. Let's bring on the guests. That's why we're here, right?
Yes.
So, all right,
I will shut up for once.
All right, first I'm bringing on 19-year-old Sebastian Martinez. How you doing, Sebastian?
Hello. I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Taking time out of his busy schedule, and he's actually at the gym right now. Hopped on the podcast with us. Thank you very much. All right, second, now we have, I'm going to make sure I get this right, 18-year-old Julia Garnett.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
How's it going? How's everything down where you're at?
Busy, very busy.
Busy? Yeah, you're right. You're about to end school. You got a lot of stuff planned. There's stuff to plan. So, all right. Third, we're going to bring in 17-year-old Daniel Gross. How you doing, Daniel?
Hey, guys. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Welcome to the show. Thanks for taking your time to come on the show with us. We really appreciate it. Next, we have our surprise entry, 10-year-old Addison Mayer. How you doing, Addison?
Good. How are you?
Excellent.
So glad to have you on the show. Thank you. I'm glad your mom let you on the show with us. Mom approves, so that's all I'm worried about. All right. And then last but not least, we have our oldest activist, Matthew Grakolski. How you doing, Matt?
I'm good. I'm hoping that everything is good for y'all as well.
Yep. So far, everything is going really good. So, let me see. Sebastian, or I have everybody out of order, don't I? Sebastian is actually have some time constraints. So we're going to have him go first. Liz, did you guys, or Mike, did you guys have any questions you wanted to start with?
I just want to hear everyone's stories. Like I said earlier, I'm going to try and keep myself to a minimum today, which is difficult. So take it away.
Yeah, and I will say that all of the speakers have been asked to do like 10, 15 minutes about where they're at, what they're doing, what their passion is, and so forth. So I'm really excited to hear from all 5.
Absolutely. So, all right, Sebastian, tell us, what do you have going on right now?
Well, since I'm in Sarasota County, not to brag, we're constantly in national headlines. So there's always something to do and there's always something new. So my name is Sebastian Martinez. I am a Booker High School graduate of 2021. I'm 19 years old. I am a youth organizer here in Sarasota County, Florida. And I started an organization called American Youth Association. And I primarily focus on civic education, getting young people, mainly high school and college students, educated on local, state, and national politics and government, roles and responsibilities, everything like that. American Youth Association originally started as just a group chat between me and my friends. And we were just talking and following along with our school board. My advocacy really started because me and my friends in our criminal justice class, we saw we didn't have like enough textbooks in class. And, we just wanted to figure out how could we get our administration enough funding so that we could have enough textbooks so everyone could do homework at the same time, because we were rotating textbooks, which wasn't efficient for the class. So that's how we started. And we researched, we're like, okay, what steps could we take to help out our schools? And we found the school board. And at the time, the Sarasota County School Board wasn't as contentious, and it wasn't making national headlines. There weren't documentary teams coming out to Sarasota to learn what's going on. And we went to school board meetings, started watching them, and there was these group of parents that were saying during like the whole like masking debate, and then there was this whole issue around a video that involved like Black Lives Matter in our school district. And these group of parents said, we're here representing students. We're here because students aren't coming out, and we're the voice of the students. That was the rhetoric they were saying. But when the students were listening to what these parents were saying, it's like, that's not representative of what we think at all. And so I and a group of friends started attending school board meetings. We started attending school board meetings. And once these group of parents, which at the time they were called the Concerned Parents of Sarasota, after these parents saw students coming out and directly contradicting their entire argument that we're here speaking on your behalf, but like, no, we don't agree with you at all. Those same Concerned Parents of Sarasota would harass our group of students that would go and attend school board meetings. We were threatened several times. There were Facebook chats of parents talking about running over students who were out in protest. They slurred me and my friends, racial slurs, homophobic slurs, everything. We didn't, pay them any mind. We just wanted to attend a school board meeting, which is, I think, the craziest part of everything. We're high school students that just wanted to attend a school board meeting.
How dare you.
And right. And the Concerned Parents of Sarasota then became one of like the first seeds, or like the first 3 seeds that then started Moms for Liberty. Sarasota County is very blessed to have Bridget Ziegler, which
we've talked about her before.
Oh my gosh. She's one of our school board members, and I've had like a back and forth with her. She's just always been this center of controversy on our school board, and especially now after like last December she became an even larger controversy. And so the Concerned Parents of Sarasota turned into what then became Moms for Liberty. And at the time, me and my group of friends, we still had this group chat. But then we saw these parents get more and more organized. So like, oh, we need to organize students. So then we created something called the United Youth of Sarasota. Then there we were more organized, and we started bringing in more high school students to teach them about, hey, this is going on at our school board. Here's all the powers the school board has, and here's what you could be doing. And then after the election year, during the election year in 2020, there was a large uptick of students. We had 40, 50 students all involved at the same time.
Wow.
And after the election year ended, things kind of died down. Young people didn't take as much interest, at least in Sarasota, in politics, and they just went on their own thing. And at that time, I had graduated high school and I was going to college at Penn State University. And while I was in college, I noticed the like drastic descaling, like less involvement for young people. But that's when everything in government actually happens. Everything people campaign on, all the controversies that are used in attack ads, all that happens during those off years where nobody's paying attention. So while I was in college, I decided to formally make an organization called Sarasota Youth Association, which then entirely was focused on getting young people engaged, educated, and involved on the off years, so that during election years, it was even bigger. And once I created a county structure, I'm like, well, if I can do this in one county, I can do this in other counties. So then I created a state structure. And I'm like, well, if I have a state structure, I can do it in other states. So then I made a national structure, which is now our organization, American Youth Association.
Awesome.
Our like slogan or like top three things is inform, educate, and empower.
Oh, I love it.
We focus on registering students to vote. We get them educated on roles and responsibilities of government. And we also get them out transported to vote. So we have like a whole Roll to the Polls program. We provide transportation, and we're networking with a bunch of organizations and churches here in Sarasota to provide transportation.
Just real quick, now I understand why the right wing is so upset with you guys. You literally just listed all the things they don't want people to do: mobilize, educate. All right, sorry to interrupt there, but
it's
you
almost
might be
like they
triggering
don't
some
want
people if
people
they
to.
happen to come across the show. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
You're good.
Go ahead.
You're good. So that's primarily that's primarily what we focus on getting everyone registered to vote, out to vote, and so you can be an informed voter and you actually know what you're voting on. And that's a very like broad overview of my work and my involvement. I've been attending school board meetings since I was 16 years old. I was watching when I was 15.
Wow.
I'm 19 now and I've still been going to school boards. Oh, that's a big piece. So after I went to Penn State, I only went to Penn State for a year. And during that year, I made my organization. I made all that structure. But that's also when we had the election cycle where Moms for Liberty won a bunch of school board seats. And after seeing the animosity in Sarasota County, I would get texts from my friends being like they'd send me screenshots of different like chats, things that were going on. They'd still attend school board meetings and they'd tell me everything that was happening, policies that were changing. And just I was following along with the election, and it was horrible, and it was surprising to see adults act like that. Because when I grew up, one of the things that we were taught and that my parents taught me, or that even my teachers taught me in school, is the importance of being able to have civil conversation.
Yes.
You can have different ideas and different approaches to policy, and you want the same goal. You want to help people, but you might have different approaches. That's how I grew up around government.
So it's supposed to be.
But when I saw my teachers getting threatened by random people that were just targeting teachers, they'd file out reports for Moms for Liberty to then report any teachers, and my teachers were targeted by that. And I would see school board candidates. One of the school board candidates, they paid for a billboard truck to drive around that had the candidate's face and it said baby killer on it.
Come on.
And it would drive all around Sarasota County. And in my head, it's like, this is a school board race. School board, education, teachers, students, schools. And you have billboards that say baby killer. And it wasn't even just that really got me like tied in. It was the fact that the average school board race in Sarasota County used to be around maybe $30,000 to run your campaign. The year at the cycle after that, candidates had to fundraise $200,000 to run their campaign because of all the outside money from like 7076 PAC, Moms for Liberty, the Leadership Institute, and all of them start pouring money into this. And so now they needed to fundraise $200,000. This cycle, school board campaigns have to fundraise $300,000. And it's only going to keep going higher and higher.
That's crazy.
That's insane.
And seeing all that happen in Sarasota County is really what got me like strung into everything, because I was sitting in class in college and you'd be reading in history books like, oh, 50, 60 years ago, this is what organizers did during this time. This is how they fought against these different issues. And I'm like, why am I sitting in class learning about it when it's happening where I live? And so the issue I came across is I was rationing my food in college. I'd get like a microwave scrambled egg thing and I'd split it into 4 so I can feed myself for 4 days. And I would save enough money to either take a bus or fly from Penn State to actually take a bus to like Philadelphia or to Pittsburgh and then fly to Sarasota or Tampa, just so I could attend school board meetings. And I'd be there for maybe 1 or 2 days, fly back and go to class.
Wow.
And I realized that wasn't economically sustainable. But I also realized that I couldn't let go of my community and see everything going on without doing anything. So I decided to leave Penn State, which if you're all going to college, stay in your college, do your work. But I decided to leave Penn State and switch to an online college program so I can live in Sarasota County. And now that I've been here, I've been organizing more young people, working with a bunch of different organizations here and across the state of Florida. We've hosted community events. A couple of weeks ago, actually with I think Addison, right? Yeah, Addison's wearing a Youth Action Fund shirt, which they actually helped us fund one of our voter registration drives here in Sarasota County. So they're an amazing organization. And we were able to register 170 students in 1 week.
Wow.
Which compared to the supervisors of elections office, they would register 10 students every time they'd come onto campus.
Wow.
And originally when we asked hey, can students register other students on campuses? And they're like, no, you have to bring the SOE. And we're like, well, we can do it better. And so we did it without permission and we registered 170 students. But because of that, now one of the things I'm working on is creating a whole civic education program that can be adopted by local governments, and it's going to be piloted here in Sarasota County. But it's to get young people to be able to get involved with the SOE, employed by the SOE, and registering other young people. And the goal right now for this project is to get that same program adopted by various local governments across the state. And if I can do that in various local governments across the state, then I'm hoping to go into states like Georgia or into Pennsylvania, Arizona, and replicating the same amount of things like that.
Sebastian, quick question on that. Who are you working with? The SOE for that project?
I'm doing it by myself, but yeah, I'm working with the SOE.
Okay.
The SOE here in Sarasota County. I essentially sent them an email and I'm like, hey, I appreciate all the work you guys do. You have an amazing staff, but in the nicest way possible, students are not going to approach your staff when they come onto campus. And I explained, here's the problem you're having. This is why you're not having a return on investment. And here's how you can do it better. And here's proof that we can do it better. And essentially, I was able to get a meeting with our supervisor of elections, and I talked to him about, the idea. I talked to him that, the different like legal workarounds with everything, and strictly making it like a purely educational thing. My main focus and passion is educating students, and especially civic education, because the 1 year that you get in education is not enough to cover all the civics. You learn a couple Supreme Court cases, you learn your basics, which is great, but you're never taught about things like county commission. You're never taught about things like city commission, school board, or even the state legislature. There's a lot of voters across the country that, directly think that the president is in charge of things they have no control over.
So thank you for saying that. Man.
So my big focus is civic education, and making sure that young people are informed, educated, and empowered.
Sebastian. Well, Sebastian, use our network for pushing the needle on this, because we are national. So that's awesome.
I just want to say before we go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
I don't even know what I was going to say. It's funny to hear someone young talk about civics, because I remember when I was in school, it was one of the few subjects I actually enjoyed, because it was teaching you how society works and the responsibility of citizens within that society. And most of the reason I think we are where we are as a country is because we stopped teaching what it means to be a responsible citizen and what's expected of each other as neighbors, as communities, as citizens, and as voters. That's all I'm going to say on the matter. So thank you.
So I just want to say I appreciate your dedication. Not a lot of people your age would go out of their way and use what little money they had just to do what you do. Keep it up, and you're a great speaker, by the way. I think you
Thank you.
definitely have a career, at least in public speaking. But I'd love to see you in future in politics for sure. So thank you for coming on. But now we have to go to our next guest. We have 18-year-old Julia Garnett. Julia, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. So Sebastian just really made me feel like I wasted most of my life. So there's 4 of you left. So let's keep it going. What kind of stuff are you working on? Now you're in Tennessee, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So what kind of stuff are you working on over in Tennessee?
Well, I'm a senior in high school in Tennessee, and I'm also a student activist. So I'm someone who's involved in a lot of issues here in Tennessee, but my focus over the last couple of years has really been fighting censorship, more specifically book banning in my community, as well as on a national scale whenever I have the opportunity. So, I mean, here in Tennessee, we're seeing attacks on public education through attacks on school libraries, removing diverse and representative books, and also the proposed voucher system that was in discussion a lot over the last few months with our government being in session. That's really been an attack on public education and funding that way. And we've also, witnessed the effects of Moms for Liberty groups and really similar local groups with similar values who are getting a lot of their ideas from this national group in our own community. So they're really working to remove diverse books from our libraries, and that's something that I'm really working to fight against. So, you can often find me speaking at our school board meetings, marching for our libraries, and also speaking in front of our state capitol to call for change. So, you can really find me there. But I'd like to start kind of by sharing my journey into activism, because, sharing our stories is really one of the most powerful things we can do as young people. And I really believe we can use our stories to inspire other people to really speak out, whether young or old. So I'll start there. I attended my first school board meeting in October of 2022 to speak out against my school board banning a book that's called A Place Inside of Me by Zetta Elliott. And it's a really beautiful book about a Black child and his experience witnessing a police shooting. And it's a children's book, and it's really meant to be a book that young people can read and understand. And it's really powerful. And it's definitely a book that belongs in our school libraries. And I really felt that way after reading it in 2022. And so I decided to go to my first school board meeting, and I was really quiet, actually. And so I was kind of terrified. I didn't really know what to expect. My dad went with me, and we really went in blind. And I didn't notice until I got into that room exactly how divided my community is. Especially on an issue like this. I just hadn't seen it before. I hadn't really noticed. I hadn't really looked for it. And I walked into that meeting completely blind with my dad, and we literally sat in the middle of the room because we didn't know who to sit with. We didn't know anyone. We sat in the wrong place, actually, because the woman behind us was kicked out for screaming at the school board members.
Wow.
Yeah, but
they get wacky.
Yeah, they do.
Who knew school board meetings could be so much fun? I mean,
oh no,
they used to be boring. I will tell you, they used to be boring.
Like I would go too, just to popcorn and just watch adults act like
it's not fun,
idiots.
Dude. It's no fun.
No,
it's really frustrating at times, for sure. Especially that first meeting. I go in expecting my elected officials to act like adults, and they didn't. They argued over each other. We had one school board member actually bring up a book that he wanted to have banned, and you have to follow this whole challenge policy. And he just skipped all of that and decided to read explicit passages out of the book that he didn't think should be in school libraries, but still felt comfortable reading out of this book in front of me. I was 17.
Oh my God.
There were other students there to watch that meeting and to speak, and he decided it was a great idea to read out of that book. And so, of course, I went and immediately read that book after the meeting. But yeah, at that first meeting was really where I found a community, because there were people there who were very much in support of the book who I'd never met before. And so it was a really great opportunity, to meet them and to really get involved with them. And I get up to speak. I'm probably in the middle of the docket. And, I've heard arguments from both sides. And there's a point where I kind of ad-libbed it. And I mentioned how my school board members were acting like children. And the room that's supposed to be silent kind of erupts and their sound, but it almost calmed me in a way, because I was like, oh, my voice is powerful, like people are listening, it's making people mad, but
That's right.
and I'm scary. So
That's
you know,
fantastic.
from there I just
I love
continued to
that.
speak, and at the end of the meeting, you know, there were people like clapping and really being really positive, so it kind of drowned out all of that negativity. And I really found a group of people who are willing to stand by me, but at the same time it made me realize, you know, when I go in and I speak at these school board meetings, or maybe I'm attending some kind of rally or something like that, a lot of the time I am among the youngest people in the room, even though I'm like 17. I was 17 then, I'm 18 now. So it really started something with me that I'd love to, you know, bring other students along with me. And so from there, I joined the National Coalition Against Censorship's Student Advocates for Speech program. And we are a group of students from around the country who come together over Zoom, and we really discuss ways to involve students, and we meet with authors, and we talk with different experts, like experts on law and things like that. And we have hard discussions, because not everyone agrees on everything. And I think that's really awesome to be able to come together in that space. And so each of the student leaders from around the country, we have all started our own clubs at our high schools, called our Student Advocates for Speech clubs. And through there, we facilitate discussions, and we try to expand our clubs throughout our school to involve people from all over, all grade levels, you know, all points of view. And we come together and we have those discussions, and it's been a really amazing experience over the last year to have these meetings and to have these resources that I didn't have before. And so it's been awesome. And through this group, through the National Coalition Against Censorship, I've had some really amazing opportunities kind of on a national scale to spread my story and to encourage other young people. So through them, I've been able to submit testimony to our United States Senate Judiciary Committee. They took an interest in book bannings. So I was able to submit written testimony to them about the harm of book bans, and also, you know, how that's affected me as a queer student, because representation is really important to me, and I know what it's like to live without it. And so, you know, I'm going to fight as hard as I can to make sure that the representation we do have stays in our libraries. Also through them, I've been able to interview with a producer of a podcast created by CNN with Audie Cornish. So that was a really awesome opportunity. I've also been able to speak with the author of The Giver, Lois Lowry, over Zoom. That was last month. And it was really cool to be able to speak with her and get the author's perspective on book bans, because that's something we don't really see a lot.
Great point.
Yeah, it was really cool to meet with her and to speak and hear her opinion on things. And I mean, she never thought that her book, The Giver, would ever be banned, because she didn't think she was writing anything controversial.
Yeah.
She wasn't.
Yeah, she wasn't. So yeah, it's just that organization has really helped me to connect with other students, and to also encourage students in my own community to be involved and engaged, because I do feel like a lot of them didn't know that they could be, or didn't know how to be. And so we've really been encouraging them through that route as well. But yeah, through my work, I've gained some national recognition for my efforts to fight censorship. So actually, in October of last year, I was invited to the White House by the First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden, to be recognized. Thank you. I was recognized for International Day of the Girl with 14 other amazing young women from across the country. And so that was such an inspiring and incredible opportunity to speak with them and to speak with her. And, you know, we're still connected. We have a group chat and everything. So we talk regularly, send
Tell
updates.
her I said hi.
Yeah,
we get word for us. Come on, you got connections. Let's talk.
I mean, we get White House mail to my house like every month. Yeah, it's really awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I get it from the IRS. Does that count?
Right? Yeah, not the same kind of letter. Right?
Not the
same. You know, it's funny what you say about school board meetings. They are supposed to be a place where you can just go and discuss maybe different perspectives on the education of the students in the school district. Full stop. And the few, which I should go to more, but the few I've been to in my own school district, they're grotesque displays of, yet again, people who should know how to act better, adults who should know how to adult better, just flinging mud and insults and screaming and yelling. And I've seen so many students go to these meetings like looking around like, wait a minute, why are we the ones that could see you're all crazy? Just listen to us.
Uh-huh.
And man, I don't know. I'm having trouble here because I'm really in awe of all of you. So
yeah,
that's amazing.
It shouldn't be this way. Like, you should
it
not
shouldn't
have
be
to
this
be
way. I
worried
don't
about
know what
this.
else
No,
to
they
say.
shouldn't have to be.
So, but all right, so we're already at 35 minutes. All right, so unfortunately, Julie, we're gonna have to move on to our next guest. Thank you very much for speaking with us. Good luck on all your future endeavors.
Thank you.
Sounds like you have a lot. Sounds like you know what you're doing. So I
And
have
stay
full
on if you
confidence in
can.
you.
I think Sebastian did
Yeah.
have to go off. He had a
Yeah,
time
yeah.
constraint. So
Everyone hang out.
yeah.
Do what you
Okay,
want.
so our next guest is 17-year-old Daniel Gross. How are you, Daniel?
Hey, I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
Hey, Daniel.
All right, so fill us in. Now, where are you located?
So I'm just outside of San Francisco, California.
Okay, so you're on the West Coast. Oh man, I got people from all over in this chat here.
I know,
Tell
yeah.
us what you're working on right now. What's going on over in California? What are you involved in
Okay.
right now?
So my involvement started last year, just before the election cycle. And it was really my mom that brought me into it because a friend of hers was running for school board. There was a vacant spot, and I had taken some course on political science over the summer. And she's like, hey, you might be interested in learning about this, learning about how local politics work, specifically the school board, something that affects you. And there was another student at my school, a friend of mine, and he was president of our Young Democrats Club at the time, a club that I was a part of. And so him and I took on the task of helping to organize a forum at our school where each of the candidates would come and we would ask them questions. We actually had students submit questions and watch in the audience. It was awesome, but unfortunately there wasn't enough time to really get to all of these questions. And so what we did is we continued to gather questions from the students, and we asked each of the candidates if we could survey them, if we could have a little article written about them with their responses to these questions. And what ended up happening is there were two candidates. One of them was my mom's friend. Another one was another man. And both of them were more left-wing candidates. Of course, school board elections don't have political parties. But the other candidate was, I'm not sure specifically if he was backed by Moms for Liberty, but he was backed by those types of groups. And so what happened is when we reached out to the first two candidates, they were more than willing to sit down with us to have this interview, to allow us to publish their responses to the questions. But when we approached this guy, he didn't want to. He, at first he replied and he said, yeah, sure, I'll do it. Send me the questions. And we said, well, we didn't send the questions to the other candidates beforehand. It would compromise the journalistic integrity of doing so if we were to send you.
Nice.
And he's like, well, I've looked into your guys' backgrounds and I see that you're both in the Young Democrats Club and all that. And so you can send me the questions and I'll write you a response, or I'm not going to be able to take the interview. And we explained to him, look, although we're in the Young Democrats Club, we're doing this completely separate from that. This is on behalf of the students and listening to student voice and wanting to know how you would address the concerns of kids at our high school. And he just didn't reply to us for 2 weeks. So
of course
no, why would he? So we went up at the farmer's market and we got to speak with him at his table there, and we got to speak with another candidate, the one that my mom is friends with, and she actually offered us positions to help work on her campaign, to gain experience, to gain volunteer hours, and we went up and spoke to him, and he said, I'm not doing this interview. And so we published the article and we included his email about it, responding to us saying that he wouldn't do it because
that's his official stance.
That's his answer.
And so that gained a decent amount of publicity. Now, unfortunately, come election time, we had a split vote between these two left-wing candidates, and he actually was able to win that seat. And what that did was it opened the door for more of these extremists, these Moms for Liberty type groups, to come into our school board meetings. There were already a few, and I'd attended a few meetings and heard, the same things, reading out of the book, these obscene things, but taken completely out of context. And it allowed for more and more of these people to show up. And a few months later, I was speaking with some students from my school, from one of our LGBTQ groups, and I said, you know what, I hear your guys' concerns, and what I'm hearing is that you are afraid to speak up in fear of your own safety as students, which you should never, have to be fearful of going to a school board meeting and talking. but I will speak up for you. And so I took their concerns. I wrote a speech. I went in, and it was interesting. It was a very similar reaction, that all these adults are arguing. I go in, I give my speech, and it's suddenly peaceful, and there's suddenly like a happier mood. And it's like, yeah, it's like everything I heard back was like, we love student perspective. We love student voice. We want to hear from you guys, because that's who it affects. That's who having these books in schools actually impacts. And since then, I've worked on a lot of different student voice projects. I became a student senator for my school, which is a district initiative. And I became the leader of the subcommittee on that the student voice subcommittee. And so what we've done is we've sent out surveys across schools, every school in our district, between high schools and middle schools. And we heard about the concerns from students. So whether it was about parents putting too much pressure on their kids to take classes, some of that coming from the focus on traditional education that these right-wing groups are talking about, or whether it was that LGBTQ students still didn't feel safe on campus, we have been able to address those issues. I've also worked now as the president of the Young Democrats Club this year, because my friend who was last year graduated. We've worked on similar initiatives. And then what has been most important to me as a Jewish student is, after October 7th, there was a lot of tension on campus. And I came together with a friend of mine who's a Muslim student. And we said, look, we don't want to see all these big political, heated riots and stuff on our campus. We don't want to see students divided. We want to bring students together. And originally what we planned to do was have our Jewish Student Union and Muslim Student Association come together and have a discussion, and have expert panelists come in, whether it was a rabbi from my temple or a sheikh that he knew. And when we started working on this, there was actually a lot of parent pushback. It was really interesting to me, because it's almost like they don't want us to have a peaceful conversation. They don't want people to come together. They just want to fuel one side. They will make comments that are very either anti-Semitic or Islamophobic, which is exactly what we're trying to avoid. And so because of all of this parent pushback, we actually weren't able to have that first meeting where we'd have the panel. But since then, we've had to privatize it, and we have been able to have conversations. We've gone through 2 already at my school, and we're expanding to the entire district. But because it's all the students, it's only students involved in these conversations. It's run by students. It was created by students, and the entire process is just about students. So as soon as you cut that parent piece out, it flows so smoothly.
So as soon as you take out
the obstinate to mess things up.
As soon as you take out the obstinate old jerks and let the people who solve the problems and not bask in their hate take over, what happens? Conversations, which is what this all has to be about.
Yeah, so, and I just want to commend you for doing what you're doing, trying to bring people together peacefully. That's kind of what Mike and I try and do, is just bring people together, especially with all the tensions that are going right now, and you being a Jewish student. So, yeah, I mean, what you're doing is definitely important. Don't stop what you're doing. You're going to get pushback. Like, you guys already know this. Politics isn't nasty anymore. And you're dealing with people that are proudly ignorant these days that will say anything just to try and get a reaction out of you.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, it goes to show yet again, hate is learned, and it's not even learned. It's specifically taught. Hate doesn't happen. It's an intentional direction, and it's almost grooming in a way, right? It's teaching people to think a certain way without thinking, without asking questions, and assuming the other people are the enemy. And that is never the case. And the younger and younger you see people discussing, the less those things happen, the less they get in the way. And you're just left with people going, oh yeah, we can get along. We can figure it out.
One of my favorite quotes, and this is actually, I learned this from my principal at my school, is you can't hate somebody whose story you know. And that's why it's so important to have these conversations. If you just sit down and talk with somebody, you will become so much closer than if you just try to debate and see who's right.
Thank you.
And I'd like to add, I became familiar with Daniel because there was just a coordinated summit in California where Daniel was part of the panel for discussion and what have you. And at Stop Moms for Liberty, we participated. I was the keynote to kick them off. And it was this remarkable event of all of the boots on the ground that are doing this work to fight against the attacks on democracy, to fight against some fascism, tongue-tied, that we saw. And I was very impressed with Daniel. So Daniel, tell us a little bit about that summit.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so this is a local East Bay Area movement. It's called Lift Up Public Schools. And it was organized starting back in January, I believe. There was a smaller group of people from these different organizations. We had one from Stop Moms for Liberty, our local chapter. We also had from the AAUW and from the Rossmore Democrats, as well as just some other community leaders, PTA, those types of groups. And we came together and we said, we saw what happened last election process in some of our school districts. We want to prevent that from happening again, and we will be stronger together. So how can we bring in all of these different groups, whether it's actual school board members, whether it's students, or if it's these nonprofits and larger organizations that have resources, how can we bring them together? And over time, we've planned out this process. We had a smaller meeting back in March, where we brought in a few more people from different groups and expanded. And then we planned this summit, which happened on April 13th. And we had, I think, 150, 200 people from, I want to say 20, maybe 30 different school districts around here, all coming together to use each other as resources to learn how we can protect our school boards in this upcoming election cycle. We had Liz speak. It was wonderful. I was on the panel, as well as a couple of different school board members, talking about how we've seen these issues actually playing out in front of our eyes in our own districts and how we can combat them.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was a remarkable event, really, and we hope to kind of replicate it. I have a meeting with some of those organizers to see if we can almost make a bit of a framework for that to happen in other areas of the country. And I will point out that I've heard the term Democrat in some of the things that we're here tonight, but we need to focus on the piece that we are trying to rise above having this be so much of a political issue.
Yep.
This is a fight against extremism. And
Yes.
yes, the extremism seems to be more on one side of the political spectrum, but I'm not a Democrat. So, I mean, if people want to pigeonhole the work that we're doing as being, all about supporting a party, it's not.
It says
We
more
just
about
don't
them.
want bad people in positions. And
Exactly.
the younger people, they really don't care what kind of party you, if you're a decent person and will represent people, at one point,
Exactly.
it
Well,
shouldn't really matter.
It's funny.
So
That's exactly what they're fighting. And by they, I am not speaking about a certain side. I'm talking about anyone that wants to stop people communicating, understanding each other, bridging divides, finding same causes, finding anything to keep people together, because there always seems to be forces driving us apart. And I don't know always what the aim is for that, but you can see what happens when you bring people together and you take out the nonsense. You actually
Amazing
start
things
accomplishing things. Look what everyone here is doing.
right.
And all they're doing is looking at something, getting fed up with it, and figuring out a way to fix it. And that's happening because they're talking to people, they're communicating, they're building these networks.
Exactly.
It's almost like there might be a reason they tried to ban TikTok. Or wait, did they? Anyway.
All right, so Daniel, I really
yeah.
appreciate your time. Thank you for telling us your story.
Yeah.
Keep
Thanks for
up
having
the
me.
good work. You guys are, again, just making me feel like I wasted most of my life. I'll just repeat that. But no, this has been so much fun so far, and I'm going to bring on our youngest guest for the show. We have 10-year-old Addison Mayer. Addison, how are you doing?
Good.
Let us know what you were involved in. Now, you're out there with Liz. You're in Brevard County, Florida.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what kind of stuff are you involved in currently?
I'm mostly involved in the abortion and the right to clean water.
Basic human rights.
Now, what was the award you showed us earlier for? I missed that part.
So that was the Purple Rose Award. I got it from Rose Dynasty.
Hey,
Rose Dynasty
there
is
you go.
on.
Rose
watch.
Dynasty's on. They just pulled that.
Hi, Rose Dynasty.
They love you, Addison.
So this is the award part of it. It just says 2024 Rose Dynasty.
that's so cool.
And then this is
Now
the
what-
necklace that comes.
This is what I want to see. Yes.
Look at that. Now, what did you get that award for?
I got it for giving back to my community and picking up over a lot of trash and over 100 hours of community service.
Wow.
Jeez.
Wow. That's amazing. Now, your
It is
mom
amazing.
mentioned that you got into politics and like social issues at 3 years old. I don't even know what I was doing at 3 years old. And here we have Addison already involved. Now, what are some of the things that you see happening in your schools do you go to school board meetings as well, or is that a little too?
So I actually went to a school board meeting with a youth action fund. We were protesting outside of it, and we went. Well, I didn't go inside, but what was their name? I forgot.
What were you protesting against, Addison?
We were protesting against banned books.
Yeah.
Yes, but everybody went in and talked about how they didn't want. They talked about like what they were fighting for there, but we were mostly fighting about banned books.
That's
Now,
such a
you
big
said-
issue across the country. It's amazing.
Yep.
Yep.
What was the other thing you mentioned earlier, that you're also fighting for the right to clean water, which I think is actually in 2024, you think that would be something that would be a normal thing, clean water, but apparently not. So what are you doing with that?
I'm helping them get petitions, and how many do we need? We need 900,000 petitions. So that I'm just trying to help them because the only county in all of Florida that has clean water is Orange County.
Wow.
Wow.
Really?
Mm.
I think we need to talk to the governor about that one.
Liz, get on that.
Florida. Right?
I know.
So, how did you and Addison meet?
Yeah.
We haven't actually met face to face because
Well,
I
how
can't
did you
wait
guys
to
get in
give
touch?
her a big old hug. I just can't wait to meet this girl in person. I've been following her on social media quite a bit and seen some videos. And I mean, she's been shaking some hands of some pretty, Anna Escanami, who is one of our bigger legislators here in Florida. Addison, I think Maxwell Frost, you had a meetup with. And
What?
This is a 10-year-old, folks. And if she can make
Yeah.
waves, shame on the rest of us if we're not making waves like this little girl is. And I'll call her a little girl because she still is a little girl. But I find it amazing because I think you're homeschooled, right, Addison?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's homeschooled. This girl is getting civics education 101 like
Nice.
I would probably never be able to do as a classroom teacher.
Yep.
And
You
so
wouldn't be
I
allowed
give
to.
kudos to her folks that, are guiding her and allowing
Yep.
her to experience a lot of the things that she has. I know she's been at protests, has been standing up for a lot of the issues that a lot of us are really fighting for. And here's this little tiny human being that is doing
No kidding.
her part. So
Well,
I think, I mostly saw like attendance at different rallies and things of that nature. And I'd always go, oop, there's Addison. And, I'd see a photograph or whatever. And I follow her on, I think it's on Facebook and Instagram, a couple of places, I guess. I'm not
Well,
sure exactly.
It's extremely inspiring.
Yeah.
It's equal part inspiration and kind of a little broken heart because I feel like none of you should have to spend your times trying to fix the society that you're being handed. But Addison, you are
We broke.
really focused at a really young age.
Yeah.
What inspired you to want to really take action in your community?
So when I was younger, I would say
Younger.
I think I was around 5. I witnessed my mom advocating for brothers, for my autistic brother, because he needed ABA therapy, but the state of Florida wouldn't give it to him because we made $52 and something cents over what he needed.
Oh my God.
So we are still, my mom and me are still fighting to get Hayden what he needs, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I can say just from experience, because I'm a father. We went over that already. My daughter was born deaf, and she had to get a cochlear implant. And I'll tell you what, the one time I really was in school, and I'm one of those parents that gets upset when, like, obviously you want the best for your kids. I was never in a position financially to provide it. So every time when you're poor in America, you have to fight for every bit of services you could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
I had a hard time just getting my daughter a sign language interpreter.
Yep.
The basic thing that you need for a deaf child in school is a sign language interpreter. And I had to fight tooth and nail just to get one. That they didn't want to pay for it.
But could you imagine doing that
unbelievable.
at 10, being brave enough to just take on the
No.
world for your own
No.
family and to try and help other people and to try and make a difference when so many people are content not making a difference? So
I agree.
I can't be more inspired.
Absolutely amazing. Keep doing what you're doing. Do you have any stuff coming up that you want to talk about?
I am trying to do my own podcast.
Yes.
Okay.
Go, girl.
Absolutely.
I'll be a guest.
I will definitely subscribe. I promise you that.
Because I'm Gen Alpha. My mom is a millennial. So sometimes we have different stances. So I wanted to start a podcast so we could like have people on there from like Gen Z, Gen Alpha. So and then we could just like talk about like what's going on, different episodes based on different things, because
oh my God, that's amazing.
we're probably going to need one episode for everything that's wrong in the United States.
Yeah, that's so true. So
yeah,
true.
you have a lot of episodes you're going to have to do.
Yeah, a lot of content. Just
I'll
waiting.
tell you, if you need any help getting started or set up or with video editing, please let me know. I would be more than willing to get you guys going. If you need any help with the show. I just learned how to do it myself like a year ago. So I'd be more than happy to help you out with that, because I know starting out can be frustrating and time consuming. So if I can help you with that at all, just please reach out to me on Facebook. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming on. So we're going to get to our final guest, the oldest member of the group, Matt Grakolski. How are you doing, Matt? What do you have going on right now?
I'm good. So I'm Matthew Graholski. I'm an activist out of Central Florida, specifically Winter Park, Orlando area. And I really got my involvement start back in middle school, actually, originally, because during the 8th grade, Parkland unfortunately happened in Southeast Florida. And being a student in Lakeland, Florida at the time, which is in Polk County, Central Florida still as well, I really was able to kind of just see the fact that students were really upset in my area, my school, and that continued on to high school, where I became a teacher administrator for the media center at my high school back in 2022. And when I started out as a TA for the media center, I did not think that my life was going to be interesting at all. I just thought that I'd be checking out books for students, that I'd just help stock the library and all that. I thought it would be fun. And then it wasn't. Because back in 2022, as many people know, we had a series of book challenges sweep the nation. and that included my home of Polk County, where 16 books got pulled off of the shelves of our libraries. When that happened, I was actually a part of the George Jenkins High School Media Center Review Committee. And that became something that didn't even matter because we ended up having to go through the county for these challenges. So I was appointed by the Polk County School Board to represent a student voice regarding the book Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, which is about 9/11, the grief from 9/11, and how to deal with losing a parent. And that book was challenged by a far-right organization that isn't actually Moms for Liberty, but arguably its worser cousin, which at the time was Constitutional Citizens Defending Freedom, which
I love
is
their
a far-right
names.
organization that
man.
celebrates pretty much like the worst people
Yeah.
in Florida and across the South. So it was a really difficult time for me back in 2022. I was a senior. I was going off to college in the DC area to become a lawyer. That was my goal at the time. That was my life dream, was become a lawyer. And in 2022, November happened. And I remember everybody walking around my like super political college up in DC at the time, just celebrating. They were really happy about the election results. They were like, "Oh, Democrats won the Senate. Everything's gonna be good now." And I remember just crying because what happened in Florida happened, where
Yep.
Ron DeSantis won overwhelmingly, where we had a supermajority Republican legislator. And I knew that everything was going to go downhill in the state of Florida. So I made a terrible decision, kind of. Do not take this decision ever. I decided to actually quit college. I moved back down to Florida, and I knew that I was just going to organize. I was going to try my damn hardest to move the needle in the state at all. So I did not make the best financial decision. Because of that, I became actually unhoused. I was not able to really get secure housing ever. And
Wow.
while couch hopping in Polk County, I started the Young Democrats chapter that is currently down there. I became the youngest Young Dem chapter in the state, and I
Wow.
was just advocating like hell on the Polk County School Board. Like just 1 month after I made that chapter, the Polk County School Board removed any proclamations from Polk County School Board at all. So Pride Month was never proclaimed anymore by the Polk County School Board. Black History Month was not proclaimed by the Polk County School Board. Autism
Wow.
Awareness Month was not proclaimed by the Polk County School Board anymore because of the fact that the CDF took control of our school board. When I was unhoused, I was able to finally find a community out here in Winter Park again, due to State Representative Anna Escamani, who secured me housing at the college that I decided to transfer to, which is Rollins College. Over here, I've been able to learn how beautiful this community really is. It's the backbone of Florida, of Central Florida. It's why Osceola and Polk counties are growing so fast. It's because so many people want to just commute to take their jobs here. But there, I've really learned the fact that our communities aren't working for everyone. It's not working for marginalized communities. It's not working for low-income communities. So I was able to join the Sunrise Movement Orlando, which is a Gen Z organization dedicated towards fighting the climate crisis and fighting for student representation and Gen Z representation in government, in planning, and developments as well. So through that fight, I've been able to really fight for mass transit and public transportation in the county, because realistically, you're not going to support students if you don't have free fares for low-income students. In Orange County, our Lynx buses, which is our main catalyst of public transit, actually do not have free fares for high school students. They don't have free fares for middle school students, but they have free fares for students at UCF and Valencia who pay thousands of dollars, and their thousands of dollars also go towards paying for mass transit. Why do the students that are in our high schools and middle schools, why do they have to pay?
True.
It's something that never made sense to me, and that never made sense to the greater movement here in Orlando to fight for things like a Green New Deal, for environmental policy out here. And that is why I've decided to become our campaign lead for the Sunrise Movement. But of course, my advocacy is not just environmental justice and fighting for school boards right now. Last legislative session here, which was January to March, I testified about 15 times before the State House, the State Senate on LGBT issues, environmental bills.
Wow.
Social media bills, because our great state decided to attack the right of social media access for anyone under the age of 16.
Right, they did.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
Yep. I was the first person actually in the State House to speak out against it as a constituent. I was interviewed by organizations like NPR to discuss how wrong that is, because you're depriving students of proper education through removing social media.
Yep. Thank you for saying
I
it.
look up to people like Addison who are homeschooled and are still gaining political knowledge. I bet that some of that political knowledge and wisdom that they're getting is through social media.
Yes.
It's funny you say that because...
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's funny because I got involved in politics about 3 years ago or 2 years ago. I'm 47. And if it wasn't for social media, I mean, I learned a lot. Mike and I get a lot of our stories that we research. We find them first on social media, and then we do our due diligence. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I did not realize until now, though, how crucial social media is as far as spreading messages and educating.
I think any technology or any new thing, right? Every generation has it, that the older group, the parents, are afraid of something that they didn't have, that gives their kids an ability that they didn't have. And the scariest one of those things is when that's education, when that's knowledge, and when that's the ability to organize. Because I think a lot of people, by the time their kids are starting to try and become activists and things, they've become bitter to the fact that why couldn't we fix it? Why couldn't we get together? Well, because unfortunately, there's a lot of generations that were born before social media, and the good of social media, we did, can be so far outweighed by the bad when you focus on the bad, when you make it all about the bad. But when you frame it as an educational opportunity, as an organizing opportunity, look at what Addison was saying about starting a podcast about 2 different generations, multi-generations. Every generation, including mine, I don't want to talk to any other generation. I want nothing to do with them. We have nothing in common. We can't learn anything from each other. Yet again, we were wrong. And social media shows that, because look at us right now. All of us right now are from some different generations, and we're all talking about things that all of us have been talking about our whole life. And that's only possible because of social media.
Right.
Liz, you're Gen X, right?
No, I'm a boomer.
Oh my God. Okay, so we actually have 4 different generations.
So I have shoes older than you, Jeremy. Okay.
But no, I just wanted to point that out. We actually have 4 generations worth of people. We have Gen Alpha, Gen Z, Gen X, and Boomers all on one podcast talking about issues. Nobody's screaming and yelling.
Yep.
Everybody's getting their point
across. I want
to
point out, Matthew hit it on the head, that, when you give an all or nothing situation, that's not how you deal with whatever situations are at hand, right? There is an issue of bullying and suicide prevention that does need to be addressed on, the subject of social media.
Of course.
I've fought for that myself. But, we're talking about 16-year-olds and up. I mean, there's nothing that they haven't seen or heard about, right, at this point. And we are really undermining their rights with having, some really unreasonable restrictions. But younger ones, yes, there do need to be some controls put in place.
Of course.
And actually, we're seeing it unfold also with AI. It's like we put this big thing out there without this plan of how to keep it reasonable and safe. And it just goes, monkey crazy. So,
isn't that because we still don't know how to look forward and anticipate not just problems, but benefits, and plan accordingly? We allow companies to throw out life-changing technology.
Absolutely.
you can't be expected to know what the end result is going to be. But I got to tell you, I think I'm starting to see what the end result is of what social media is supposed to be. I think it's supposed to bring us all together, right? It's social media, not crackpot news, tinfoil hat network. It's social media. Bring us together.
So Matt, I kind of caught on to your advocacy by seeing a few videotapes of you before the legislature. So what are some of the things that you actually went and testified about? I think you briefly mentioned on that, but you've had some powerful statements.
So my first bill that I ever testified before the Florida State House was against HB 901, which was also deemed the Pride flag ban. And, you know, the state House and state Senate really tried to attack us having pride flags in classrooms or having it in our state offices as well. So like State Representative Anna Escamani, for example, couldn't fly a pride flag in her state house office because that was deemed political. But for example, like country flags were not deemed political, which makes no sense because they're political inherently. Governments are political. So of course that was one of the big bills that I testified against, HB 1639, which is also an anti-trans bill that would have made it so that trans residents would have to put their biological sex on their licenses and IDs, even though it does not properly represent them as individuals. I spoke about bills such as a ban on lab-grown meat, which made no sense at all. There's also bills, of course, to ban it so that social media would not be accessible from anyone below the age of 16, a total blanket ban on things like LinkedIn or basic other social media outlets. And of course, a very terrible bill that would have made it so that citizens had more access to killing the endangered black bear species, where one of the co-sponsors said that we have too many black bears, even though they're an endangered species. So, you know, the state house and the state senate here in Florida have really tried to attack our constitutional rights. It's attacked rights for people like Addison to host a podcast at her age. You know, it's truly devastating and truly fascist here down in the beach state right now, the Sunshine State. And you know, we're always put into this angle where we keep hearing the free state of Florida, the free state of Florida. Well, the governor has attacked the Sunrise Movement Orlando through a press conference saying that we're a bunch of woke communists that are standing up for mass transit and it hard for people to drive their cars when in reality we're just asking for more walkable cities.
My boyfriend Ronnie strikes again.
How dare you fight for mass transit of all things? Like, oh my God, these people.
Well,
and honestly, we can't even get free lunch for kids in school right now. You know what I mean? Like the Republicans want to ban free lunch.
Something I've always found interesting about mass transit, right? And you're going to think I'm just pulling this out of somewhere, but I'm really not, because it's something I've thought about. I've heard people from other countries, whether through posts, social media, and I've been lucky enough to do some traveling for work and get to talk to people on the other side of the planet. The ability to be able to wake up and take a train and hit a few different countries. People in this country are so xenophobic and so ethnocentric and so focused on their own little tiniest individual communities, and they don't see how similar our problems are. They don't see, ironically, how similar our differences are with each other. And something as simple as being able to have high-speed rails or functioning bus services, it allows people, again, to connect and see each other and learn different things about different people in different places. So
we've always been behind as far as mass transit goes, because I lived in Germany when I was a kid, and even as a kid, we used mass transit all the time. We were kids. We would hop on the train, go down to the skate park. It was like an hour away. You know what I mean? We're like 14, 15 years old doing stuff like that.
I want to share with I want to share with all of the guests. Sebastian has left us, but I'll maybe send it to him separately. We don't for 1 minute, and hopefully all of you have learned this at this point. You know, if Addison goes to a protest, it doesn't mean that change is going to happen right this second. based on what you're protesting for or against. When Matt goes before the legislature, it doesn't mean that a single one of those legislators are really listening to him, because we have quite a crew right now, Matt, as you have seen. And what it is putting the messaging out there. My school board is flipped. So when you go to our school board meetings, you might as well be talking to a wall somewhere, right?
Same as mine.
I mean, and they're even rude to people at the microphones. But we go with the understanding that we are spreading our message through their communication tool, their, videotaped meetings, so that other people get this messaging. And it's so important that all of you continue with what you're doing, even though you think, oh gosh, this is falling on deaf ears. I can assure you it is not. I've found every single one of you through your advocacy in one way, shape, or form, right? And I'm running a national organization. So I get to see what's happening across the country. And I have to tell you, you guys are amazing. And I encourage you to just keep going.
Can I just say
thank you.
That's
Matthew, you want to go first, and then I'll hop in.
Sorry. So all I'm going to say is you might have seen me on the front page of the Orlando Sentinel standing up for diversity, equity, and inclusion, because we know that things like removing DI leads people to die. You might have seen me on the front page of the NPR website saying that we need access for social media for students. But what we really need right now is just people paying attention to Central Florida. We need people paying attention to Florida as a whole, because right now our state is at such a standstill that without the help of people nationally, we're not going to completely just win all these elections, all these races to really make Florida a better state again. We need people coming out of the like New Jersey, Pennsylvania, sending dollars or just sending out support for basic human rights here in Florida right now.
So that's such a good point. Yeah. Matt, I call us the laboratory for everything terrible that could be tried across the country. We're it. They're trying it in Florida. So.
You in Texas.
If the name fits.
Yeah.
Like it does, unfortunately. And Jeremy, you're right.
Running pretty close behind you guys. It's like a competition.
Florida might be the
most fascist.
Yeah, other states are catching up, but you have to remember that in the state of Florida, it's been the perfect storm. We have a pretty much unbalanced governor. We have a legislature that has all been put in place to rubber stamp everything that they've tried to put through. And we've had the push in the 22 elections and somewhat in the 23, but not as much, of this whole push of extremism across our state. And so our hope is that this coming election, we are going to see some of that flip back to at least some form of normalcy.
I think so.
Florida right now, I mean, our state has had to issue warnings to people in the LGBTQ plus community, people in the Black community. Oh, don't come here. It's not safe for you. That's like from the NAACP, they're issuing warnings.
I saw that. That is absolutely absurd.
So we're kind of the toughest fights. I think some of the there are a few states that are tough. I'm so shocked, Daniel, that there's such negativity going on in California. I honestly thought, oh, good, California's safe, and I was thinking, Massachusetts is safe, but I've been proved wrong. Nowhere is safe.
That's one of like the really shocking things that I saw. And that's kind of what I wanted to say is you have to pay attention to all levels, and you have to, have communications and build connections on all levels, because it's local, it's our individual school boards, it's, counties, and it's the entire state and the entire country. And if we aren't working to combat these extremists on every single one of those levels, then there's going to be problems. And so really both what both you guys were saying, I completely agree,
That's awesome. Well, we are, unfortunately, we are out of time. We don't get to ask you guys any of the round robin questions. So hopefully, maybe we plan a future episode where we all get back on again. I would like to actually do this again because you guys have impressed me.
Oh, I saw.
I honestly, I didn't know what to expect, and I've blown.
They're good, aren't they? I told you guys. I told you this is the crew right here.
I don't know.
You guys are amazing. So Addison, Daniel, Julia, Matt. And then I'm going to send a message to Sebastian just to tell him thank you as well. Thank you guys all so much for coming on the show tonight. This has been by far the favorite episode that we've done of mine so far.
Thank you for having us.
No problem.
Anytime.
Yeah,
Good luck
thank
to all of
you.
Addison, you keep up the hard work. Don't get frustrated. And like Liz said, remember, everything works slow when it comes to politics and change.
And also, I want to reiterate something Jeremy said earlier. If any one of you need anything we could do, we're humbly tiny, and we're just two old guys trying to get a message out. But if we can
Whatever
help
we
you
can
with
do.
anything at all, if you guys want to come on, you want to talk about anything interesting, anything you're doing, promote something, if you need help with technical stuff, Jeremy's becoming a whiz with setting up these things, just ask and we will help you.
Takes
Liz,
all of us.
We're so
I was
proud
just
of you
gonna
guys.
say,
before we
you know,
go?
this was a goal of Stop Moms for Liberty. When little old me, retired kindergarten teacher, decided, oh, we have to push back. This was the goal. It was to bring voices together. And as the example with Daniel on the panel in California, as we see Matt at the legislature, I mean, really delivering some great speeches. As we see someone as young as Addison, who is photographed with, you know, some pretty hard hitters in our state. This is how we make change. Julia has a picture of herself with the first lady.
I know, right?
I'm like fangirling.
I'm jealous.
Julia
Exceptionally
over that
jealous,
one.
by the way.
Yes, very jealous. So, yeah, this was the goal of Stop Moms for Liberty. And I'm so, so glad that we were able to help you guys coordinate this tonight, because these kids are just amazing.
We're humbled
for your
and deeply
time.
thankful.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't even have any closing words. Just please like and subscribe. Make sure you follow these guys on social media. As soon as they send it to me, I'll add it to the description of the video. Please like and share the video so we can get their message out there, because they need to be heard, and us old people need to be listening.
Yes.
I think is the very important part of that. Okay, we don't need what they're saying to fall on deaf ears. We need them to be heard. And this is how we do it. So let's continue the fight. Don't give up. Everybody be patient. I'm probably the worst person to ever say that, but just be patient and just keep doing what you're doing. You're all on the right track to doing something really great. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys do in the future. So everybody have a good night, and we'll be back on Sunday. So like always, we will talk to you soon.
Because Colin Powell reminded us of what's at stake in this election for America and the world. He reminded us that at this defining moment, we don't have the luxury of relying on the same political games, the same political tactics that have been used in so many elections to divide us from one another and make us afraid of one another. We've seen some of these tactics in this election. They're getting uglier and more intense. You'll hear more outrageous attacks, calculated to mislead and inflame and divide. Now listen, I mean, we can have a tough contest, we can argue ideas, but we've got to have a line that we don't cross. You know, and we've got to stay focused on what the American people are interested in, the big issues, energy and healthcare and jobs. The other side wants to make a big election about small things. But no matter what they do, you'll have the chance to walk into that voting booth and close that curtain and say, not this time, not this year.